If you were offered $5 million to stay in a totally blank room for 50 days, do you think you could do it? I would love to say I think I could, but I really have no idea. The Immaculate Room. So this is one of those kind of psychological experiments that takes place. It follows a lot of the same beats, but my God, did I really enjoy this one. This movie wastes absolutely zero time fucking about. So we open up on the Immaculate Room and we are introduced to Mike and Kate. We see them coming through the doors. It's their introduction to this as well. You know, you see this optimism, this future planning, that they've got a chance at like a fresh start at life with $5 million. So very quickly we learn the rules of this room as well. And anyone who's watched me for a while will know I absolutely love that. So they both need to stay within this room for the 50 days. If one of them leaves, the prize pool drops to $1 million for whoever stayed in the room. And then as the movie progresses, we learn that they can each get 2 treats. I'll come on to them in a little bit more detail later, but they cost out of the prize pool. So I love a claustrophobic movie. See the movies where there's a very limited cast in a confined place. I think these are the ones that they can crash and burn very quickly, or they can try and do something quite different because they're forced into that space as both writers, directors, cinematographers to try and break the mold, to do something refreshing. And I really did think they did that here. Mike and Kate seem like a lovely couple. You know, they're like any other. There's not anything kind of special about them, but at the same time, they don't seem to come in with any kind of bitter resentment for each other. You know, they've been given this opportunity and here they're going to knock it out the park, change their life, do something great. You know, they start forward planning. They kind of agree early on that they'll just half the money to allow each other to do kind of what they want with it. Whereas Kate wants to kind of invest it more and is more forward planning in this respect. Mike is clearly the bit more immature of the two of them and just wants to spend it on material things and have a good time. I mean, you can't blame the guy for that. He's just got $2.5 million in his bank. The food here is tasteless. They're just given their ration of food. No more thoughts put into it than that. They're given the default clothes as well. Everything is as bland as they could make it for these characters. As time is ticking along, that optimism that they walked into the room with is just dwindling slowly. There's a few wrenches thrown into the works as well. And this whole room was set up by like some doctor. There's really not a lot of time paid to explaining this, which is good because you don't need too much explanation when it's not going to be relevant. But Mike is aware of this doctor that does these sort of psychological experiments. You know, there's one where he had a family and he put 150 million into them. You know, it was a family that came from nowhere, they didn't have anything, and made them rich, famous, and just to see how that would change their psyche. And it didn't end well. They got fighting, they got fatal. That's how that experiment went. So he starts coming up with theories as to how they got here. Whilst he's theorising, Kate isn't too invested in them, so we start seeing that void coming in between the two of them, where Mike is a bit funner of the two. He's got his own baggage, whereas Kate just wants to get through this. She is thinking long-term goals and wants to get out here with her sanity. She gives herself pep talks in the mirrors as well. Again, more so at the start of the movie. She's given herself that focus. You know, it's not clear if she does this every day or just in the room. Based on her general attitude, this seems like a daily practice for her. So how do things start going wrong in this immaculate room? Well, for one, what we have is these gifts, these treats that they're allowed. Now, each party can have 2 treats, and the first treat will cost you 100,000 out of your prize pool, and the second treat will cost you 250,000 out of your prize pool. They don't know what the treats are. It's not like I'm a celebrity and they've kind of pre-chosen them in advance. No, these are complete surprises. So our man Mike steps up first and gets his prize, and he ends up getting just this green crayon. He's an artist himself, and so with this crayon, he just starts wanting to make masterpieces. This all-white immaculate room starts getting a bit more green, a little bit of colour about it. The second prize he gets, there's no denying it's a prize, but it definitely throws in a naked, sexy wrench into the works. 250,000 is a lot for a sexy wrench. So this wrench is called Simone, and she is an actress that's just been brought in. So she tells us that she was just hired to kind of be there on retainer, just in case Mike went for a second treat. She doesn't know either party. It's very clear the reason they brought her in is just to fuel tension between Mike and Kate, even though she is a completely impartial party here. Kate, on the other hand, buys the most expensive drugs you could think of. She goes for hers and gets some ecstasy. I'll say that's expensive, he got a fucking crayon. What I enjoy here is the natural decline of how this goes. They keep trying to keep it fresh and spice things up. They get some videos from people at home, people they know. Family members have pre-recorded knowing they're going into this experiment. Don't know how, and the logistics aren't explained, and they don't need to be. So that's fine. You know, but that obviously brings some stuff to the surface for each of them. They clearly, for this experiment, got people that were close to home, family members, that they weren't on perfect footing with, just so that their tension would be back into the room. And one day, there's just a fucking gun put in the bathroom. Now they need to deal with a gunman in here. As their mental state is going downhill, they've got a fucking gun. So I'm not going to tell you how this ends, if any of them leave, and who does out the two of them if that's the case. What would I be saying about the Immaculate Room? Make time for this movie. If you like a psychological thriller's a bit of a strong word for this movie, but like a claustrophobic movie where you're just exploring how two people will decline, it is definitely one of the better ones to watch. The movie keeps it fresh on a few fronts. The story, with everything I said there, keeps throwing in wrenches where the couple need to work out. I thought the dialogue was great as well, with Mike coming up with his own conspiracy theories, just anything to keep himself feeling sane. But him keeping himself sane is then just pissing off Kate, so then there's tension between the two of them. And very lastly, the cinematography in here really needs to get a shout out. It's a plain white room that they've used for this movie, but at no point did it feel like what you were watching was looking stale or that you've seen it all before. They kept it dynamic, and that has to get credit. And the performances here were just fantastic. The couple have great chemistry, both as a loving couple with optimism in their eyes, to then becoming a couple that get on each other's tits and might not like each other that much. The chemistry in both scenarios was fantastic. And Simone, she was great. She was $250,000 worth of goodness. Now look, have you seen The Immaculate Room? If you have, do we agree or disagree? Please do let me know. And if you've made it this far, I'm just looking through these movies trying to find some hidden gems for myself and recommend to you guys. So if you haven't yet, please do consider hitting subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching.